genuinely industry-led cybersecurity conference, and today we're privileged to have with us many thought leaders, influencers, policymakers, practitioners, knowledge seekers, and contributors from across the industry and government, encapsulating the length and breadth of the cybersecurity ecosystem. We would like to extend a very warm and cordial welcome to all of our delegates, speakers, sponsors, exhibitors, and partners who have joined us from all over the country and abroad, and without whom this event would surely not have been possible. Once again, we're excited to be able to host AISS 2022 and in in-person mode after 2 years of virtual editions due to the ongoing pandemic. And therefore, with many exciting things put together, all happening all across the venue, do visit the exhibition booths. Check the Startup Pavilion, hosted by DSCI's National Center of Excellence, pavilions right outside the hall over the stairs. Network with peers and business leaders. Clearly, that's more exciting because, like I said, we're all back together in person after a while. Check out contests that are going on in various booths, win exciting prizes to play and win. Visit Trellix, booth 44, Protect.ai, booth 35, Critical, booth 13, and Weher, booth 7. We request you to keep sharing your thoughts, again, for the Twitterati and experiences that go up in social media. Use the official hashtag AISS2022, and of course, put in the @DSCI_connect on Twitter. You can also connect with us on social media platforms to get event highlights. Simply scan the QR code outside the Pearl Hall to follow all of the social channels. Please be seated, get comfortable as we now commence with the event that is the inaugural. Today we have the pleasure of having with us Dr. Saurabh Garg, Chief Executive Officer, Unique Identification Authority of India, UIDAI, as our chief guest for the summit. We're delighted to welcome our chairman, Mr. Rajendra S. Pawar, Chairman DSCI and Chairman Co-founder NIIT Group for the inaugural. And we have Mr. Vinayak Godse, Chief Executive Officer, DSCI, amongst us as well. May I request Dr. Saurabh Garg, CEO, UIDAI, Mr. Rajendra Pawar, Chairman DSCI, and Mr. Vinayak Godse, CEO, DSCI, to kindly join us on stage. Please join me in welcoming them on stage with a huge round of applause. May I now request Mr. Vinayak Godse to deliver the welcome address and set the tone for the summit in order.
Good morning and welcome you all for this 13th version of NASSCOM DSA Annual Information Security Summit. So as you know that this is a summit that we culminated the year. We try to take a review of the cybersecurity developments and evaluations which happen in the year. And we also do this as a 3-day large event format where we start with, yesterday we started with these master classes and very deep down discussion on cybersecurity space. And we have 2 days of agenda, largely focusing on a very different contemporary topic of the cybersecurity, which you just now, sometime back, heard from the Samir Atulekar, which is a he's holding the baton of AISS this year. So this summit is really a reflection of a lot of those developments happen in cybersecurity. It's also the culmination of the efforts that we all are putting together for cybersecurity and making the cyber world secure. We also work together basically to really make the cyberspace more secure and try to defend that with all the vigor and kind of effort and kind of capability that we build all across the country. It's not only we do it for ourselves as a country or for our own system, own economy, own systems and organization, we also do it for the global organization as well. So out of India, there are a lot of work which is happening and we are delivering that to the global geographies all across the globe basically. And many cities like Hyderabad, Pune, Mumbai, we are seeing a lot of those global work, cybersecurity, operational work, services work, product work, research work is coming to India. And that's the effort that we are all putting together for the making the cybersecurity work in the country and as well as securing our own border frontiers and also those, offering those kind of capability to the global geographies all across the world basically. So Data Security Council of India had been a kind of a connected industry everywhere where people from various walk, right from the students learning their BTech and trying to look at cybersecurity as a career option for them, to somebody which is recently joined the cybersecurity world, to somebody which is really experienced professional cybersecurity work, somebody which is working as a leader in cybersecurity, somebody is working in a different industry verticals, somebody working in a policy making and for the cybersecurity and privacy side, somebody is working in a government organization or public sector organization. So it's a kind of a connected entity which can engage with all these professionals all across the country at a different location, different level, different kind of discipline of security, as well as different sectors of the industry basically. And we try to mobilize many actions and efforts basically for cybersecurity in the country. And the privacy, as we know that initially we started with engaging with the global geography and privacy, but nowadays we look at the India's own concern for the privacy as well. So, and then we are starting this annual Information Security Summit as at the backdrop of this digital personal data protection bill, which we all are now deliberating on this particular bill with respect to what exactly this bill talks about, how it's trying to build the entire ecosystem, we'll be building an ecosystem for the cybersecurity and privacy. So this bill is the context for the AISS, but as we are not limiting ourselves only to the data protection and privacy, so this is just simple visualization we created for all of us to understand how exactly the privacy and the different kind of clauses and articles of this particular bill. So this is definitely one of the important area of deliberation of these 3 days of the conference. But as we know that cyber security as a subject, and as we had been until now hearing, things are happening some other parts of the globe, right? So we had been trying to see the cyber threats, especially in the last 1 month or 2 months and last 1 year. We are seeing the problems and challenges basically coming to us as well. So our own health sector, our own hospital sector, our own oil energy sector, our own power sector, we are seeing security incidences shaping and probably disrupting the way the cyber security is. So Amit, you need to change the slide probably. Way the sectors, different sectors like a power sector, health sector, hospitals nowadays, and the kind of a pharma sector basically. The disruption that we are seeing and the kind of issues that we have looked at basically, and we had seen the potency of the cyber threats and cyber crime to create a larger significant impact, and that's what we see that we all need to gear up for now taking care of the security. And I would like to see how exactly the security is evolving, right? So until now we had been focusing more on if you look at the historical part of the security, so until now security was mostly the assurance professional. We all come from the assurance professional. We have been focusing most of our attention to assessment, assurance, testing, penetration testing kind of effort, but now the things are going more towards the real-time management of the challenges basically. Real-time of management of the challenges is largely how do exactly build capabilities in a way that that helps us to manage the security problem on more real-time basis. So we are the kind of volume and velocity of transaction that we have been processing. So we are going from the assurance driven to the real-time management of the problem with making security more contextual, more automated, more orchestrated kind of a security. So that's until now basically. So that's what we have been deliberating in last day as well, and we'll be deliberating from now to the next 2 days of time basically. But now what we are seeing, what happened in some of the health sector, what is happening in what happened in the oil energy sector. So increasingly the focus is to response and recovery basically. So we are now increasingly putting our attention how better we can respond and recover for that. And for all that, so that is the evolution of security that we have been seeing from last 1 or 2 years, and especially in this year the focus is mostly on response and recovery. What we basically look at is for that to happen basically, so we need a lot of national effort, right? We are working on looking at for the national policies and regulations for that. We are looking at the national strategy for cybersecurity. We are now looking at the help of the law enforcement official and judiciary to help us with bringing the criminals to the justice. We are also now looking and leveraging from the government effort for cybersecurity, and there are significant government effort which we will be hearing from in the tomorrow's session. We are also looking at the effort that we all are putting together to develop the education skill to take care of the challenges of cybersecurity. And then on the other side, we have to create the leadership for the challenges that we are facing in cybersecurity space. We have to look at industry coming together, collaborating and engaging and sharing data. We need to create the market for the capability that we develop in cybersecurity. And more importantly, we focus on research and innovation in cybersecurity space, basically. So these are the agenda. So apart from what you have been trying to do the security in a real-time basis on kind of response and recovery you look at a national effort level, aggregate level effort, basically at a national level, industry level, we have to take this effort, and DSCI overall agenda and overall effort that DSCI is putting together in each of these, working with the national agencies, national effort, and at the same time creating a lot of effort to prepare industry better for cybersecurity. And for that, what we are devising ourselves is to look at largely 3 goals for the security fraternity and community here. One is to how do we make security and privacy as a key agent of force for digital transformation that is happening in the country. That's one thing. Secondly, how do we better prepare, which is with our capability, with our innovation and capabilities that we have, how do we better prepare industry sectors all across the industry sector basically, and how do we create India's image and probably leadership in the global cyberspace. So that's the effort, that's the goal that we as a community, as a DSA can look at. And for that to happen, we definitely need the participation from the industry to many things that we do at a national level, at an industry level basically. We need a support of the support for the different activities that we try to bring together. And we need to probably explore a lot of those opportunities that are hidden in cybersecurity space. And more importantly, we all need to partner towards creating the cyber safe secure basically. With this message, basically, I welcome you all to these 3 days of the deliberations of the Annual Information Security Summit. And also, all the feedback and comment from your side and all the participation and partnership and contribution that we're getting from all across industry vertical, plus in security providers and startups as well. So feel free to take a time to go and engage with most of the technology providers, including the startup pavilion that we have, and enjoy your time here in 2 days, and please contribute to all the discussion that we are doing as a part of an Information Security Summit. With this, thank you, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vinayak, for your insights and the important initiative and priority areas for DSCI as laid out. Digital transformation, cyber preparedness, global cyber space, and all of these elements that come together into building what we need to set up for the next few years that come up for the ecosystem, and enlisting your support to participate, support, explore, engage, and partner with all of these things that come together. Moving ahead, please put your hands together and welcoming Mr. Rajendra Pawar, Chairman DSCI, for a very special opening address.
Mr. Garg and all our friends here, very, very hearty welcome to all of you. We are delighted to have all of you here. We are quite overwhelmed, should we say, by the extent of participation. Yesterday morning, when I was checking with the team, they said maybe 500 to 700 people. Now it's over 1,500. And there are check-in happening in real time. So this is COVID-appropriate behavior. You go into a meeting 30 seconds before, and I told Mr. Garg, we'll go there on time, and just be prepared that very soon people will come in, because all of us have built some new behaviors during COVID. Not bad, but new. One of which is that we go from one meeting to the other by pressing a button, not by getting into the car, driving for 20 minutes and reaching somewhere. So our sense of time, we have to rework. And I'm finding that not only as we started this, and I want to make sure we get back on track on time, because COVID has actually spoilt us in terms of time. We've lost the idea of commuting, that it takes time. We've lost the concept that you go from one meeting to another, that it takes time, because everything happens just by switching the screen, which takes no time at all. But anyway, as I said, the opening thing I do want to say is we are really delighted to have all of you and so many people here. And that's the way we see things happening everywhere. So, A few opening comments, not too long, because we do have to close on the time that is scheduled for us. And I just want to make a couple of points of why cyber is getting increasingly important and why this period of time we have to focus on it. Why now, basically? So, none of this is news, but the digital transformation of life has been accelerated by COVID and during COVID. So we've heard this term of digital transformation of companies going on for a long time. We've looked at Digital India as a slogan not too long ago. And when we hear our keynote, our Uday, UIDAI, I want to have a shorter word for it. Happened to be my son's name. So UIDAI, chief talking about digital public goods. I'm keen to listen to him because this change is more than all of us comprehend. The pace and the magnitude of change of going digital and what it means to be. So everyone, everything, and every place is now a piece of data and swishing around at a speed faster than we imagine. And this digitalization has happened when we were sitting at home, so we do not understand the magnitude of the pace of change. So the first thing we have to recognize is that the world is very different post-COVID than it was pre-COVID, and COVID accelerated this process. COVID changed our mindset on how to deal with it. And now with 5G coming, you can imagine the order of magnitude change that will accelerate. So everything is growing exponentially, and everything is data. And from that come the threats, which I'll talk about for a minute, and from that come the opportunities. So threats, I don't need to tell the stories. I think all of us reading the same stuff, except that you can't trust what you read anymore. And I was trying to ask Rama this morning, what example should I give? She said, don't give examples. We at DSCI can't be dramatizing a situation. And also we don't have the facts. Who has the facts today? Nobody has. But we do know that there are very serious things happening, where since everything is data, and it's happened faster than we can cope with it, the vulnerabilities have gone far ahead of our capacity to deal with the vulnerabilities. So just one example of AIMS, I don't want to go into detail, tells us how they lost productivity for a number of days, and how we don't know whether the data is secure, and we don't quite know when it will be resolved, and we can imagine the risks if the data is in the wrong hands. We can just imagine it. And I don't need to give examples. All of you here at least are reading more than I am on this subject. But the vulnerabilities are increasing because there's a surge in data flow, huge surge, and there's a massive growth in the surface area. So the last individual who has a phone who doesn't know what data security is could be the root cause of a vulnerability. We know that. So the vulnerability is huge. Global attacks are up some 30-odd%. 1 out of 40 organizations is impacted by ransomware, impacted by it. Average weekly attacks on a given organization is more than 1,000 attacks. We may or may not know them. And 82% of global 1,000 companies are vulnerable to cyber attacks. In India, the average cost of a breach has been over 20 crores, average cost. And as we move into mixed reality with metaverse and so on and so forth, the vulnerability only goes up, because we are moving into the digital world willingly, very rapidly. And now the least of the as a service, the latest of the as a service is ransomware as a service. So it's becoming easier and easier for those who want to play mischief. Just like we are building platforms like Aadhaar, which anybody can use, and UPI that anybody can use, please realize that there are smarter people, and I want to say smarter. I'm not looking at the value system. Smarter system building, people building platforms for those who want to play mischief. So, not here to get anybody over concerned. All of you people are involved in this. So the threats are higher. Everything is data and surfaces are opened. But I want to touch on opportunities for a minute. So, and in the opportunities, I want to touch on some of the things we laid out as DSCI, as NASSCOM. We set up DSCI, is going to be 15 years soon. And I want to cite the thing which would have been, which is not new to many of you, that on the silver anniversary of NASSCOM, when PM Modi had been PM for a year and he came, and he made a very interesting observation. He said, I've been PM for less than a year, and I have a habit of every head of state who comes to meet me, I have to have a quiet discussion with them. You must have seen some photographs in the garden, even wherever he goes, where there's no microphone, no. And he talks to the leaders and says, what are the three things that keep you awake? And he told us that day that it's uncanny that every one of them had one common factor, and that was cyber. Heads of nations. And then he told us that for you guys, you can't get a better opportunity. It's everybody's problem. And he exhorted NASSCOM and then DSCI to seize the opportunity of cybersecurity as perhaps India's great opportunity. But make India cyber secure, but also make the world cyber secure. And so therefore, opportunities at the gross level, that's really our big opportunity. But within that, we did a comprehensive study. We did a cybersecurity task force, did a comprehensive study and put together some directions which many of you are involved in, are shaping, are executing. But at that time, we said a few things, and I just wanted to touch on that. I'll talk a bit more at the end when we're talking about the future. But we did say at that time that we were maybe a single digit, 1% or 1.5% of the size, less than 1% of the size of the IT sector when we set out on the cyber security task force. And we said that by the time the IT industry becomes 350 billion, we should be 10% of that, 35 billion, up from 1%, because the growth rate of cyber obviously is significantly higher than that of the IT sector. So I was just taking up an approximation because the financial year is still to get over, but based on estimates, the cyber sector will be over 15 billion in this year that we are going through, and we'll cross 6% of the IT industry size. And the CAGR for this industry is 30%. If the IT industry grows at 10%, then 2026 we will reach the 10% of the size, and we will be close, if not just beyond 35 billion. The second data point we had put as an aspiration was 1 million people should be involved in the cyber industry. So this data is more difficult to get because data is also not being segregated by all companies which do IT services. So it becomes like a horizontal sometimes, and somewhere it's a vertical. But we are close to 5,450,000 people involved directly, indirectly in cyber, growing at 35% per year. So this should also exceed that number of 1 million people involved by 2026. And we made a very interesting observation when we went in depth on that exercise. The task force was very extensive and intensive work, studied the industry all over the world, and concluded that the strategy should be to have a very tight integration between three groups of players. One, of course, is the industry, and within the industry, the startup component as a key driver. And we can see the 10% growth of industry and 30% growth of cyber product companies as well. So one player is the industry. Second player is the academia. When we studied Israel, we studied US, we studied some of the countries which are doing great, is that industry, academia, and the government were very tightly interlocked in growing this sector. Not only growing because everybody is involved. All of us are a piece of data. We're dealing with data. So now that is the strategy. We will perhaps be touching on that as we come toward the end, to say that everyone in this room, you are in one of those three groups. You have to find one friend in the other group and one friend in the third group, and make your own triumvirate, because when these three come together, then we will see not just the massive explosion of the industry, but then we will see that cyber is beginning to fulfill its obligation of making a cyber secure country and making a cyber secure world. So with that, all the best. I think I'm looking forward to it as much as you are. And I've shifted my office to this place for the next 2 days to not miss a moment. And I hope to meet many of you in one-on-one discussions. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pawar. The increasing importance of cyber, why now? Digital transformation of life itself, data, exponential growth leading to threats, and of course, with that, increased opportunities, increased vulnerability, which then also dovetails into the metaverse and the digital world that's emerging. So what does that mean? The mind-boggling numbers that are connected to it, the impact to, and of course, the formation of the triumvirate to make sure that the future is secure. Thank you so much, Mr. Pawar. DSCI has always had the tradition of launching a publication at AISS and keeping the tradition intact. This year, unlike any other year, we have a special book launch. Let me highlight that this is not a market report or a cybersecurity industry landscape report, but a very special edited volume, which is a collection of curated articles from thought leaders across diverse backgrounds who've penned down thoughts and point of views on some of the pertinent themes of our times into an edited volume titled Gearing Up for Digital Plus Plus, Reimagining Security and Trust. For the launch, may I request Ms. Rama Vadasheri, former CEO DSCI, to accompany us on stage for the launch of the book, Gearing Up for the Digital Reimagining Security and Trust. Manish Sharma also to join us on stage. Manish, if you're in the audience, Monish to join us. And now I request all of you to finally put your hands together and wait for the unveil and reveal of the book and the official launch as the books get to each of them on stage. I'm going to now request Ms. Rama Vadasheri to give us a quick walkthrough of the edited volume of the book. Rama, over to you.
Thank you. First of all, a huge compliments and congratulations to entire DSCI team and Vinayak for bringing AISS back on ground, and it's so heartwarming to see a hall full of cybersecurity, privacy industry leaders here. So the objective of this edited volume or compendium of articles that DSCI undertook as a project in calendar year 2022 was to be able to get, we typically engage a lot with CISOs, CIOs, privacy leaders, and other, cybersecurity community. And we've had business leaders and others, of course, come as speakers and, share their perspectives. But we wanted to be able to bring an edited volume like this, where a cross-section of stakeholders who are driving the digital transformation journey of the country come and pen their articles and point of view or op-eds. I'm extremely grateful, DSCI is extremely grateful to a whole bunch of business leaders from banking, healthcare, and technology, cybersecurity, global and India leaders, new age technology companies from quantum and self-sovereign identity, and two of the legal luminaries who have been engaging with government on the cyber law and technology policy space, and a few others. So it's an edited volume of articles, and we are really grateful for the very first edition of a compendium like this. Such thought leaders from India have written. Why this book, and what is it that we are, the message that we are trying to carry is that India at 75, we in the technology industry and DSCI team and NASSCOM team, we believe that we have a new place in the world order. I'm sure when we listen to the External Affairs Minister or our Honorable Prime Minister, that gets reinforced all the time. we have an unprecedented opportunity to become an increasingly more preferred destination for technology and for cybersecurity technology solutions because of the newly emerging friendshoring strategy. And we believe the technology industry, particularly security, privacy solution providers, are going to be increasingly held to the scrutiny of government, regulators, customers, and consumers. So we need to rise to the occasion and look at how do we build our digital platforms in a trusted and privacy-aware way so that we move this cognitive burden of being safe online or being privacy-aware from our citizens so that we can put citizens and users center stage when we are architecting a solution. Dr. Narendranath also talked about it. So those are things that are being captured. There's a very new theme where we are saying just like we as a leading democracy in the world, we are familiar and we know what our human rights, fundamental rights are. In the digital world, how do we guarantee those kind of digital human rights? One of the legal luminaries of the country has penned an article on that. And we also believe, I think Dr. Saurabh will be talking about it, we have, I think, really set the stage worldwide on a very unique digital transformation journey, particularly the way we have built architecture-led public platforms in the area of payments, identity, and now healthcare. So I think we have lessons to give to the rest of the world. In such a situation, I think we also need to take the lead in engaging in the global standard-setting bodies so that in the digital world, we are not one of those countries in the global south, but we are also part of the global north. So some of these topics are being discussed on this. I'm extremely grateful to my co-editor, another colleague from DSCI, alumni of DSCI, who was the joint editor in conceptualizing the theme and the sub-themes for the articles and engaging with the authors. And then the three themes are accelerating digital, securing digital plus plus, and future of digital. And I think the future of digital is in the hands of all of us in the room and your peers back in the companies where you're in the services companies, startups, or global technology platforms. So I think we need to do that in terms of the future. And as we chart out, when we say India at 75, and we chart out a socio-economic development roadmap, technology-led or digital-led, we need to make sure that we put citizen and trust and security in the center stage, and there is agile and evolving regulation which is supporting these kind of emerging technologies. That's the perspective. I do hope each of you all will download the copy and be able to read and give us feedback. There's a team from DSCI who was behind this. One that is heartwarming for Vinayak and me is it has been conceptualized, developed, even produced by DSCI. So we can, I think, now give the publishing industry also a little bit of heartbreak. Okay? So it's been internally produced, and there's a core team. I would like to thank Amit Ghosh, who leads the communication functions, Charu, Deepa from the policy team, and an external copy editor, Priyanka, who have supported me and Munish in doing this. I would like you to read this and encourage the DSCI team so that Vinayak gives me an opportunity to bring out a second volume of this maybe a year or two down the line. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rama. There you go, accelerating digital, surviving digital plus plus, and of course the future of digital with citizens' trust and security right at the center stage. So those were the insights. Request all of you to download the e-version of this book from DSCI website, or you can scan the QR code available at the venue and get your copies, so make sure to get them. And now the time has come for the inaugural address. Dr. Saurabh Garg is the Chief Executive Officer of Unique Identification Authority of India, UIDAI. Prior to this, he was Principal Secretary, Agriculture and Farmers Empowerment, Odisha, where he worked on digitalizing agriculture and developing a direct income transfer scheme for farmers. He's worked in the Ministry of Finance, Government of India, where he spearheaded the formation of National Investment in Infrastructure Fund, NIIF, FDI policies, preparing the framework for digital payments, revamping of the gold sector policies that led negotiations for the bilateral investment treaties, or BITs. Dr. Garg is an IAS officer of Odisha Cadre and has over 30 years of experience. He holds a PhD in International Economics and Development from the Johns Hopkins University, USA. He did his MBA from IIM Ahmedabad and BTech from IIT Delhi. He was a Chevening Gurukul Fellow at the London School of Economics and Political Science, London. Without further ado, we'd like to gladly invite Dr. Saurabh Garg to address the audience.
Mr. Pawar, Chairman, Mr. Godse, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me to be here for this annual Information Security Summit and being held in the in-person mode. I'm sure all of us are happy to be here and especially to meet all friends, colleagues, perhaps after a long time. For me personally, I must thank NASSCOM and DSCI for inviting me, and I've taken the opportunity to bring my colleagues from UIDI also out here, so that a subject which is extremely important, and as I was discussing with Mr. Pawar, it will continue to be increasingly important for all the wrong reasons, but it's getting the traction that I think it needs to get, especially keeping in view the extent of digitalization and digitalization that will continue to happen across all sectors of the economy. I don't think I need to talk about the importance of this as we go ahead, or the criticality of the sector as the digital economy grows. As a part of the Digital India initiative, there are talks of 1 trillion digital economy, 5 trillion or 10 trillion over the next many, many years. And I think that's only going to get accelerated given our experiences over the past 2 years, and perhaps how a lot of activities can continue to happen even if they don't happen in an in-person mode. Talking more broadly, the issue of digital public goods has been mentioned earlier today. And in fact, this year is also the year that India has assumed the presidency of the G20. And one of the verticals that is being discussed in the G20 over the next 12 months are the areas of digital public goods and digital economy, and what role India can play in that at a global level. We are aware of the digital platforms that we've built, whether it's Aadhaar, of which of course I'll speak a bit more on, the UPI, the Unified Payments Interface, the e-sign, the DigiLocker, and a host of others which combined are referred to as the India stack. And the architecture of the Indian stack, which is all open source, which is all modular, so it can be scaled up, I think is very well suited for being adopted globally by different countries. We've seen in UIDI the kind of interest that other countries have in digital identity. And nearly every fortnight we have visits from some country from Latin America, from Africa, or from Asia, who are interested to understand the Aadhaar architecture, which by its very nature ensures that it probably is also very frugal. And in the way it's been developed, and ensuring that it can be adopted widely by different countries as we go ahead. And I suppose that's also an area where that would bring out opportunities for companies in the Indian ecosystem to be able to participate in the globalization of the India stack and the digital public goods, which have been developed in India over the past few decades. Talking specifically of Aadhaar, where we are, we've reached a stage now after about 10 years since the first Aadhaar was issued, that every resident in India has an Aadhaar who is above the age of 18. It's at 100% that we have, and in fact, our job is now more focused on looking at the 2.5 crore births that happen every year to ensure that they get Aadhaar as early as possible. So where our attention has now shifted is much more on the utilization, on the usage. We have about 70 to 80 million authentications happening every day on Aadhaar. Nearly 40% of them are through the Aadhaar-enabled payment systems, which enable people in rural areas to be, in effect, operate a bank account, deposit money, withdraw cash from any shop that has that POS machine, which can be, through which one can operate their bank accounts. And this growth of around cross 70 million, just 2 years back, we were at around 40 million per day. So you can imagine the kind of growths that happen in the authentication, whether it's in this or in the ration cards or eKYC, etc. And going forward, that's an area that we are looking at how we can expand the usage with the vision of ease of living, how a digital platform like Aadhaar can help in the ease of living so that delivery of services which can be done digitally should be done digitally. In fact, the vision of Digital India is to have the default mode of government service delivery in the digital mode, and the exception handling or the non-default mode should be an in-person or a physical presence requirement. And I think that really would ensure the further growth of the digital economy, and more importantly, provide the necessary convenience, especially in remote areas, in flung areas, tribal areas, hilly districts, etc., where obviously physical presence becomes so much more difficult. And I think that's one area where we in Aadhaar are also working closely to ensure how we can enable different methods of ensuring that that a secure identity proof is done before the service delivery is made to take care of any issues of wrong delivery of services or for that matter fraud. To this end, we have looked at some of the non-online methods of delivery also, in an offline manner, doing verification, which has been enabled by the QR codes, and which Aadhaar, we are trying to popularize the fact that if anyone gives an Aadhaar card, it's very easy to verify whether it's been photoshopped by just reading the QR code by a QR code scanner. And I think that's what will build trust before any transaction is done. And I suppose that's the basis of business to ensure that trust is there. There are enough, I think, people in the economic sector who have worked on issues on how to build trust to ensure that the economy or the business does better. And I think that's an area where in the digital space, what factors will build that trust is something that we would need to continue to work on to ensure that the economy benefits and that transactions can happen without fear of any mistakes being made. The other area which perhaps may be of direct relevance to a lot of people in the information security sector, which is the focus of this conference, is the fact that our levels of indigenization in cybersecurity leave a lot more to be desired, and we need to work much more in that. I think different agencies within the government are working on it. I know in UIDI itself, we've developed a kind of a sandbox mechanism to enable proof of concepts to be done for cybersecurity products that are developed. Already 2 or 3 companies are working with us on developing those products, and we would be happy to provide that platform to ensure that companies, startups who are interested, who are working in that area, who have developed a product or a service which will help indigenize the cybersecurity ecosystem, how we can develop it. further. And that's why, in fact, my team is here to maybe visit and move around and see what products that we make use of, but are not yet indigenized, how we can work in that. So that's an area that I'm sure in UIDI and the government at a larger level is working and will continue to work, and would be happy to get ideas from all of you. One last thing which I would just like to mention is UIDI has had the tradition of working with people from the industry. At the exemption, I was talking to Rama just now, and she was mentioning how architects had come together in UIDI to help develop Aadhaar. We look forward to continuing that tradition and look forward to people from the industry. They want a break, they want to volunteer. We would be very happy to ensure that industry inputs are used to develop products which, as a public digital platform, would be available for wider use. So, and I think that's the approach that we are following in a lot of the India Stack products, given that, the kind of knowledge that we seek is very often very specific, very detailed, which might only be available in particular companies and sectors, and would definitely like to leverage that. I'm not getting into the details of what we plan to do in AI, ML, or other aspects of cybersecurity. But one other thought that we are working on is, you might be aware that we've just released the face authentication, so that on the smartphone you can do authentication. And going forward, I think we visualize a lot more of the services which require a verification of your identity, which require such kind of authentication to move into the smartphone, so that smartphone becomes a single device for ensuring that a lot of those transactions happen. Already in the banking sector it's happening, and I'm sure going forward it will happen in the other sectors too. So once again, I'm very happy to be here, very happy to see the kind of response that there is, and look forward to a closer collaboration between different agencies in the government and startups and different companies to ensure that the vision of Digital India and is resting on a secure cyber security framework, and which is largely Indianized as we go ahead. Thank you. Thank you once again for inviting me here.
Tracing the journey and the next steps of Aadhaar, its utilization, usage, the impact and reach, and again, mind-boggling numbers there. Building trust without fear, developing indigenized cyber-secure ecosystems, public digital platforms with access for wider use, and of course, aspiring for better collaboration. What a lovely inaugural address. Thank you so much for taking us and walking us through that. With that, we come to the end of the inaugural session. Before we move on to the next segment, we have greetings from one of our key stakeholders and a luminary in the cybersecurity domain. So can we hear from Lieutenant General Dr. Rajesh Pant, National Cybersecurity Coordinator, Government of India. He has a little message for us. Can we have the video, please?
Greetings of the day, ladies and gentlemen. As you can make out, I'm in a distant land due to some personal requirements, but I wish AISS 2022 the very best. It is one of my favorite events and so well curated, and this time I have seen that it is even better. I wish the event all success. Thank you very much. God bless. Jai Hind.
With that, we come to the close of the inaugural session. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on stage and for taking us through the inaugural.